Hello and welcome everybody to class number 6 of the Azon Masterclass series. Today is going to be an interesting class, I believe, because now is when the work actually begins to start building our website. However, before we actually start what you would probably consider building the website, assembling the website, the first thing that I really prefer to do is to write my content first. Now, I actually debated how to proceed with this training program from this point forward. The first time that I taught this particular site building strategy of mine, I actually began with what made more sense logically in terms of what comes next. Next, you would assume we start building the website. You start with your homepage and you kind of build outward from there to expand your site. That's what logically makes sense in kind of a chronological order. Well, in reality, that's not how I actually build my Amazon sites. So, even though at first this might seem backwards to you, I want you to try to stick with me here because this is the way that I actually build my Amazon sites. And this is what I want to teach this time around. So once I have finished all of my research and I know exactly what I want to create, I have a listing of the 20 pages and the main topic of my website. So I know exactly what I want to build now. When I reach this point, I won't start just throwing my website together. The next thing that I do is I write the content for the entire website. When I'm finished with my content writing, then I start to assemble the site. So I have 3 total classes planned for the site construction process in this training, this being the first of those 3 classes. The first class is going to be all about writing. Class 2 and 3 are going to be all about assembling and putting together the website with this writing. So with that said, when you are doing this particular step in the training program, it is quite possible that it might take you more than a week or even possibly a couple of weeks, depending on how quickly you could go through all of this. So out of everything that I've taught in this training program so far or will teach you in the future, the actual work that you will need to do from what I'm going to be showing you will be the greatest from today's class. And that is simply because this is the class that involves creating all of the content for your entire website. Once you're done with this content creation, though, everything else comes together really fast. So this is honestly the vast majority of the work for the entire project. With that said, don't get discouraged if this part takes you a little bit longer than the other pieces. That's completely expected and totally normal. So, with that said, I want to talk about writing a little bit in general and also share some of my strategies with you as far as what I do with my own personal writing for Amazon sites. And then I'm even going to do a little bit of actual live writing for you. Now, this is kind of the one main piece of the training where I can't really show you every moment of it. The writing process takes simply a lot longer than you would honestly want to watch on a video to watch me write all 20 of the articles that will go on this site. However, I do think it's important that you see at least some of that so you can understand how I go about writing my own articles for the Amazon sites that I build. And if you're not familiar with writing or comfortable with it yourself, hopefully this class will help to solve all of that for you and to simplify this entire process. Out of anybody that could possibly want to write content for a website, I'm probably the one person growing up that would have told you, I will never do something like that. I'll never do anything that involves writing, ever. Not for a living, especially. I hated writing when I grew up. That was the worst class that I had in school. All throughout every year in school, English was my worst subject. I got the worst grades. I didn't enjoy it at all. So it took a lot for me to finally be able to start writing for websites and to actually be able to get through a large amount of content and to do a good job with it. So, as part of that entire struggle, I kind of developed certain ways that I go about writing my content. And that's also part of what I will be teaching you in today's class is my whole thought process in terms of writing this content. How I can take a subject that I know absolutely nothing about and turn it into a well-written, well-thought-out article on my site that can actually help people with that subject. So with that said, the number one thing that I want you to try to focus on with your writing, no matter what the writing is for, no matter what kind of page or what the purpose of the writing is, you should always be trying to help the people that are visiting your site. People go out on search engines and they search for terms trying to find out information about a subject. Some people try to trick those search engine visitors into coming to their site by giving them garbage that is just meant to get them great search rankings. And other people try to deliver what the search engine is actually trying to do, which is to give them a high quality result that will answer the questions that they have or teach them the things that they were searching for. When you can accomplish that with your content that you write, everything else will fall into place. It may not happen overnight, but it will eventually happen. Google is always on the lookout to remove the bad results from search engine rankings. So even if you can figure out a way to trick it, you will always end up having that come back to bite you eventually. So give the search engines what they want to find, which ultimately is what the searchers want to find. Whatever terms you're trying to target, provide good information on that subject on your website. As a secondary part of that whole thing, you can then start to think about search engine optimization, using particular keyword phrases within your content to ensure that you can show up on the search rankings for that term. It is important. If your content has none of those important relevant keywords in your writing at all, you're most likely not going to rank on them. But if you only focus on keywords while you are writing, your writing is going to come out looking like keyword spam, and it's probably not going to be helpful it's not going to read very well for the visitors that are landing on your site. And ultimately, Google may one day look at your site, and Amazon one day may even look at your site, especially if you have not been approved as an Amazon affiliate yet. In recent years, Amazon has changed the whole process of approving Amazon affiliates. I'm going to be talking about applying and getting approved for Amazon in a later class in this series, but it's important to understand this now when you are doing your writing. Amazon initially will let you go ahead and get an affiliate ID, and you can put ads on your website for products, but you have to refer 3 sales, and then they will review your website before actually approving you. And one of the biggest things that they are looking for now is a website that has high quality content that offers some kind of value to the visitor. So you want to make sure that you don't have any pages on your site that are just junk pages that are there simply to take up space. You need to make sure that you don't have pages where you have a minimal amount of content in terms of I shoot for at least 500 words per page. So you don't want pages where you just have a picture and 100 words of content. You also don't want pages that just offer no value. For example, a page that is nothing but a really big checklist. If there's no explanation to go along with it, if there's no explanation to go with each item on the checklist to bring value to the visitor, to bring value to the reader, Amazon will look at these things when they are reviewing your site, and they'll simply not approve your site. So when that happens, they put you back through the process. You have to do 3 more sales before they'll consider approving you again. And from my understanding, I cannot actually go through that process myself, but from my understanding of other people that have been going through it recently, is they're not actually going to pay for those 3 sales. So if you don't get approved the first time around and you have to do another 3 sales, you have to keep referring sales for them without getting credited for it. All this comes back to your website. You need to have good content on it. You need to not make your entire website look like it was just created for Amazon ads. They even look at apparently the frequency of your ads. They don't want to see just a huge page or an endless website full of nothing but ads. That's why, in my opinion, I think it's important to go after things like informational content. Honestly, on a first website, if you were just trying to apply and get approved as an Amazon affiliate initially, I would maybe even consider doing backwards of what I have done here. What I've highlighted on my screen, these are informational pages where I'm not going to have any ads on these pages at all. These pages, though, will link up to other pages on my site that do have ads on them. So if I was just now trying to get approved as an Amazon affiliate, I'd really want to go backwards where I had maybe this many pages worth of informational content and just one small section of 4 or 5 pages of actual product pages or brand pages where there would be Amazon ads. So that way Amazon would look at my site and see that the vast majority of it is value-driven content, things meant to help visitors, and just a small portion of it is actually an Amazon ad. And they will look at sites like that a lot better in the long run. Now, when you are doing your writing, there are a number of different kinds of articles that you're going to need to write. Ultimately, I have laid out 6 main types of articles that you will need to create on all or a large majority of your Amazon affiliate sites. Technically, there's even a 7th one, like a privacy policy type of page, but I haven't included that as part of this breakdown. So with that said, just looking at my list here, I have the home page of my site. Then I have the main primary pages of my site that I will want to make sure the home page is linking up to. That would be this radiation equipment and radiation education pages. So I have what I call category pages of this website. So that's a second type of page. A third type of page is the informational page. Pure informational, helpful content that's not directly designed to try to sell something to your visitor, where you don't even have an advertisement on these pages. But it's kind of a funnel type of page where you target a search engine keyword that relates to your website, that relates to a product that you are trying to sell. You bring the traffic into these informational pages, you give them the helpful information they are looking for, and then you try to funnel them along to one of your product pages, something that relates to whatever your topic is about. For example, my page on an equipment checklist for surviving nuclear fallout. This could link up to some of the products that I promote. But the goal of this page is to help and inform, not to directly try to sell to people. Now, another kind of page, the fourth type of page that I will build on sites. This one I do not always build on all websites. It's really situational, depending on simply what works best for the topics that I am trying to target. This is a subcategory page. It's a lot like a category page, these main primary pages of my site, where they're going to link up to other supporting content pages. But the subcategory page allows me to break down a category into even more defined topics. This is helpful, especially when you get to having a really big website. If you wanted to do not just 20 pages on a site, but let's say you wanted to build 50 or even 100 pages on a website, you're going to have a lot more than just 2 category pages. And you're going to have many of these subcategory pages too. It simply helps you to organize your content. It makes it easier for visitors to find the information they are looking for. It also makes it easier for search engines to figure out exactly what your site is about and what different sections of your site is about. This can improve search engine rankings when you organize your content properly in this manner. But you don't want to do it too thinly, I should say, where you don't want a category page that only has one supporting page under it, preferably, unless there's a good reason to do it. You don't want to have a category page that only has one subcategory and that only lists one product underneath it or something like that. You need to have a reason to be expanding more than just whatever your main category is. Now, product type or page type number 5 is the product page. These pages are directly designed to sell products or to refer sales on products, being your Amazon affiliate ad pages. So Ultimately, you want to try to funnel traffic from other parts of your site into these product pages by linking up to these pages wherever it is relevant to do so. And then you want to have your Amazon ads on your product pages. So on this site, these 2 pages plus these 4 plus these 4 are all product pages. So I have 10 on this 20 page. Actually, will end up being a 22 page site because I haven't counted these 2 pages. So a little under half of my site will be product and advertisement based. Everything else is one of those other types of pages, except for the 2 that are down here at the bottom, a privacy policy page and the about page. Now, the about page is something that I will mention here. It's not necessarily a required page that you build. However, on a larger website like this, I usually put the About Us page there to include the required Amazon affiliate statement, where you are basically just identifying yourself as an Amazon affiliate. And then the rest of the information on that page is just general information about your website as a whole. Why did you build the site? What is it about? What kind of people are you trying to help? Things of that nature. You can even link up to some of your other pages of content from that about page. Your privacy policy page should just be standard legal mumbo jumbo. They have a standard privacy policy that is built into new WordPress installations now, something that was a really nice addition. You can simply edit those pages and tailor that to the needs of your site. You can even include your Amazon statement on that privacy page. But as far as the main pages of your site, it's going to be the home page, the category pages, sometimes subcategory pages, then your informational pages and your product pages. Out of these different types of content, you can then assemble an entire Amazon site pretty much no matter what you want your website to be about. Now, with that said, a few other things that I want to talk to you about having to do with writing before I actually dive into writing out an article here for you. Obviously, search engine optimization is an important piece of this whole strategy. Like I've mentioned, you don't want it to be your primary focus though. What this really means is you need to ensure that you're not repeating your keyword phrase, whatever you're trying to target on a given page. You can't just say that phrase over and over and over again and expect to get any kind of real results from it. Something that you can use kind of as a general guideline to help you to ensure that you're not overusing a keyword phrase is something called keyword density. There are some plugins, one of which is called Keyword Statistics, that can be used to look at the content that you're writing on a WordPress site, and it'll tell you what your various keyword densities are. You can also just go to Google and search for a keyword density tool and copy and paste your article into that to see what your keyword densities are. Ultimately, I recommend any keyword phrase that you're trying to get a search ranking for, you want to make sure that you're not going above 5%. However, whenever possible, try to go even lower than that. I like to aim for 2 or 3% in the vast majority of cases. This really seems to be more natural type of writing. It seems to be what Google is beginning to favor more and more. They want to see less of the presence of the keyword that you want to target. They want it to be there, but they don't want to see it over and over again. Instead, what they want to see are other words, natural looking writing that includes other words that relate to what your topic is about. This is called semantics, where if you take any topic, say the word car, and then you try to come up with words that you could use to talk about a car or to talk about uses of a car or different parts of a car without actually using the word car again. Things like the engine, tires, seats, mirrors, windshields, windows, door handles, the trunk, driving a car, um, speeding, speed limits, policemen getting a ticket, doing work, maintenance, oil changes. Any of these topics that I've just mentioned are semantic topics to the main topic of car. So the more of those closely relating words that Google is able to see in your writing, the more likely you are to be able to get a good search ranking on it. I'm truly convinced that this is really the only way that a computer could quickly find a search result out of millions of potential possibilities. It has to break down a website. It has to be able to make meaning and sense out of it all. And these semantic words is a really great way in the English language to be able to do that. Beyond semantic words, though, you need not just a big list of these words. That's not going to be enough because Google could look at that and say, okay, you're only using these semantic words. Where are the other normal words that people use when they're just having a conversation? In any normal sentence that you write, you're going to have a pile of these other words that don't really have true meaning, or at least they don't have meaning as it relates to what your main topic is about. If you listen to pretty much any sentence that I speak, you can identify these words. The word you, and, the, in, a, he, she, it. There's all kinds of these really basic, common, simple words. Some people call them stop words in search engine optimization. These words need to be a part of your writing. You need for your writing to sound natural, like a natural conversation. But you also need for those keywords to be in there, and you need for those relational semantic words to be in there as well. This is how you get Google to look at a piece of writing that you have done and say, yeah, this is about this particular topic. And it can kind of determine which pages are more about a topic or include more information about it, depending on how many of those semantic words they can hit and how much explanation they give to them. Because your semantic words can have semantic words themselves. So the more thoroughly you can cover a topic like that in one single article on a page of your site, the more likely you are to get good search rankings on those relating topics. So that's really the easiest way that I can explain to you how you want to be structuring all of your writing, what your ultimate goal of it is. You want it to be helpful for the people that are reading it, and you want it to adequately cover whatever the main topic of that page is. And ultimately, those two things kind of go hand in hand. When you're providing the in depth, helpful information to your visitors on your main topic, you end up hitting a lot of those semantic words in the process. So you really don't have to put too much thought into this as long as you have a main topic of your page, a clearly defined topic. And then the rest of your page is about trying to break down that topic and explain it the best that you possibly can. Then 9 times out of 10, you'll end up doing okay with that article and being able to get some decent search rankings with it. So you don't have to super analyze everything that you write. You don't have to, go into extreme detail in terms of researching a big pile of words that you want to use. Look at it from a more natural standpoint. I have this topic. I want to write something that adequately explains that topic in as much detail and depth as I possibly can manage. When you can do that, everything else will then kind of fall into place. Now, in terms of research, when you don't know about a topic at all, you use what you have available to you. You can use Amazon if the topic relates to a specific product or a type of product. You can go and find out information about it from Amazon and put that into your own words that goes onto your site. But you also need to make sure that a lot of your information comes from outside of Amazon too, especially if you're a brand new affiliate, because you don't want Amazon reviewing your site and saying, we can't really find anything here that's not already on Amazon. So, what value is this affiliate really bringing to us? You need for them to feel like you have more than what they can offer on that particular topic. So, one of the ways you can do that is simply by going to Google and searching, seeing what other sites have to say about your topic. Try to do better than what they are doing. A lot of sites will just have bits and pieces of information. If you go and learn the whole subject and do the best job that you can of putting all that information into one relevant article that makes sense and will help people, you can do better than them by simply using the same basic information that they are using, but having more of it and presenting it in a way that's easy to understand. Now, I will actually be doing some research here today when I am writing my article in just a few. Before I proceed to that, though, I also thought it would be a good idea to give you some direct visual information in terms of what I'm going for here, because obviously I can't build the entire website. I can't do 100% of the writing here for you live. So downcomforterguide.com is a site you can go to see some of the writing types that I've been talking about. So now for the different types of pages that I've been talking about, the home page here being the first one, this also kind of will hopefully help you to understand why I recommend to work backwards on this whole process. Ultimately, your home page is going to be a little bit of information about your website. Right here in the beginning, I have a couple of sentences that are essentially an introduction, a summary of my entire site. What's my site about? What can I expect people to find here? This is also a great place that I can include some relevant keyword phrases. Beyond this introduction, next I have links and information about different sections of my site. Each of these here at the top is one of the category pages of my website. And then I have a bit of a summary on each of those category pages. And then I have an image and links to some of the individual supporting pages found in those category pages. So ultimately, anything that is found right here, this information, while I kind of know what all these pages are going to be about, because I have my site planned, I know I'm going to have a main category page for this, and I know what my links roughly are going to be. But until I actually write these pages, sometimes I end up having to make some changes. Sometimes I think I could write about this one topic, but maybe I end up having to change that a little. Maybe I don't have enough things to say about a topic, and I have to expand what my topic is about. Ultimately, I might not even know about these topics yet. So if I'm trying to write my homepage first, and I need to write a summary about radiation education, about what this section of my site's going to be about, that's a lot harder to do when you haven't even made that section of your site yet. But when you work backwards, when you write the supporting pages first, so in this part of my site, write the informational pages first, then I write the content for my category page. And I would do the same with the other category as well, working backwards. And finally, when I'm done with all of the other writing on the rest of the website, then I would finally come back to the home page and write this. This is why it makes more sense, why it is easier, in my opinion, after having built so many of these sites and written so many articles. I find this much, much easier to do because anytime you arrange pages in a hierarchy type of structure like this, your supporting pages, so my informational pages here, are going to contribute to what's going to be on this category page. And then this is going to contribute to what's going to be on my homepage. So by knowing what's going to be here, it makes writing the content for the pages above it a lot easier. I find the category page creation and a good chunk of the homepage creation to be really, really simple by using this particular method. In fact, I end up not even really doing research most of the time for them. I just research my supporting pages, so my informational pages and my product pages. On this site, it's going to be about 14 different topics or so. I would go through and write those 14 pages or articles first. Then I work my way backwards and create subcategory or category pages. And then I finally create the homepage. Now, when I show you a category page on this site, I think this will make a lot more sense. On the homepage, besides what I've shown you already, the rest of the information down here is kind of content filler. A couple of main topics or informational points that I believe are pretty common for people that are looking for information on the subject of this entire website. Whatever I think might be useful or important to them, I can use that as kind of additional subtopics that I can cover on the rest of this homepage. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a lot of content on this homepage. I don't want this to be a thin content page, so I want to make sure I have plenty of other useful, relevant information there. So that completes what I have done with this homepage. So moving on to the category pages now. The category page is meant to organize other content on the site. This could be informational topics, it could be other subcategory pages, or it could be product pages. This here is a category page for my product pages. So this organizes all of the product pages together on this entire website. I believe outside of the pages that are linked from this page, there may only be one other page on this entire site that has any kind of advertising on it. So all of these are brands of this particular type of product. And then going down this page, I have a section on each of these brands. And then each of these sections links up to the more expanded page on that topic. So when I start by writing the product pages first, and then I move backwards to this category page, I'm basically writing a summary for this category. What is this category page about? So this one is about the brands. So I briefly talk about brands for this type of product, kind of in a general sense. Everything else, all of the other writing that's done on this page is specific writing that has to do with one of these products or brands that I'm featuring on this page. So when I already have done the writing for these other supporting pages, and then I come back to write this page, churning out these articles, these little sub summaries of the brands or the products or whatever your supporting content pages are about. Writing out these little blippets of content becomes much, much easier to do. It's really just putting this quick little summary together is the vast majority of the deep thought that you really have to put into creating the articles for these category pages. Now, a subcategory page would essentially look just like one of these category pages, where you have a main topic and then you have organized other supporting pages. On this website, I believe pins on here is a subcategory page. Maybe not. I could have swore I had a subcategory page on this site, but I may not possibly. A product page would be the other main type of content page. A product page is still in a lot of ways, an informational page of content, you still want to have helpful, useful information for people. You don't want it to be nothing but a bunch of advertisements, preferably. On this page, I have quite a bit of content actually. This page has really, really amazing search rankings. So I've kind of gone back over this page a number of times over the years and just kept adding more to it. The products that I originally promoted on this page, they got replaced and discontinued. And so I talk about that. I still talk about the old products, and then I talk about the new products as well. So down here, I'm talking about the discontinued line and what that got replaced with. You would not believe the amount of search traffic that this page receives for these discontinued product names. Once people get to know a product and like it, especially if it's something that a couple years later that product might wear out and they might need a new one, they will search for that old product name because they don't usually know that it's not available anymore. By finding out that kind of information and including it in your content, you can pick up on a lot of extra search traffic. I actually get more traffic on this page from these discontinued product names than I get on the current product names. And best of all, nobody tries to target these discontinued product names, especially not other affiliates, because there's no point. They can't sell these discontinued products anymore. In my opinion, though, that doesn't mean the traffic on them is worthless. You just need to figure out what they're looking for and figure out what the new product is that has been replaced with. And you promote them side by side and let people know, hey, this is discontinued, this is what it's replaced by. It's a really great method of going about picking up low competition search traffic that is very readily available in pretty much any industry. You always have products that are getting replaced and discontinued and upgraded. And all the old stuff, everybody just forgets about and ignores, and they all move on to the next thing. So, for the actual product page itself, I typically will talk about the brand in terms of sometimes just the brand name in general. I have a very brief description up here about IKEA itself. Then I talk about IKEA in a little more detail just about their comforters. I've even expanded into talking about a few aspects of these down comforters on this page. Then I talk about the products and I include my advertising for those products. And I have even more information beyond that as well. So the advertising part of this page is fairly minimal compared to the amount of content that I have to offer here. This is really what you are ideally trying to go for. Helpful, in-depth content that also does an effective job of promoting and advertising a product, but not overdoing it. There's nothing flashy about this page. And this page has, at last time that I saw, over 1,000 search engine rankings that are getting exposure and receiving some kind of traffic from it. And quite a few of those are top 10 rankings. Just off of one page, not talking about other pages of the site. This is something I'll be going back into in a little more detail as this course proceeds as well. Revisiting websites, how to take a look at how your site is doing and saying, okay, this page I need to focus on and I need to expand it. This page, once upon a time, the IKEA Down Comforter page used to be 500 words. And obviously it is not 500 words anymore. I'm pretty sure it's well over 1,000 words on this page. But it didn't start that way. I built the page, I waited to see how it was going to do. And then once I saw, hey, this page is doing really well, then I did a lot more and tried to expand it, but still stayed, within the confines of what my main topic is about. Now, the other kind of content page that I have on this site is an informational page. These are connected again from another category page, and the informational page is not trying to sell anything. There are no advertisements on this page whatsoever. The whole point is bringing in search traffic. People search for information having to do with what your products are about, but it's not directly related or associated with it. For example, I'm selling or promoting down comforters on this site, and yet I'm targeting a page about mattress and bedding sizes because anybody that's looking to size a mattress or a bed or interested in these sizes is likely going to then need things to cover this mattress in. So down comforters are a next logical step in the process of this informational content. So you can educate people about this topic. A lot of times it's just a summary and then breaking your topic down into a number of different subtopics and writing out more information about those subtopics as well. That's really one of the easiest approaches that you can make to writing any kind of an article. Now, the About Us page is just general information about what the site is about, why it was created, what kind of information will you find here, and I even talk about the advertisements that can be found on this site and include the required statement for being an Amazon affiliate, that this website is a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for sites to earn advertising fees by advertising and linking to Amazon.com. This is actually old though. You can still use this statement. It still passes Amazon just fine because part of their affiliate agreement is that you use their current statement, which is a lot shorter. I believe it's very straightforward and to the point, just saying you're basically an Amazon affiliate and you earn commissions from any sales on their products or something to that effect. But they also state that any previous statement that was okay under their affiliate agreement is also still accepted. So this is still an accepted statement too. Basically, somewhere on your website in a fairly prominent place, which is why I also link this page from the top of the site. And doing it this way, I've never had any issues. This just simply needs to be somewhere on each Amazon site that you build. Some people will put it in the footer or the sidebar so it's included on every single page of a site. I'll do that on a small website where I'm only building 5 pages on the site. Then I might include it in the footer. But otherwise, on a larger 20 plus page site, I'll build a dedicated page and include that statement and make sure that page is prominently linked from the top of the website. No matter what page somebody lands on this site, this About Us link will always be there at the top. So this page is only a click away, no matter where anybody lands on my entire website. So this covers all of the different types of content that I will create on one of these Amazon sites. So at this point, now it's really just about going through and writing each of these articles. What I recommend to do, again, is to work your way backwards. Start with an informational topic or start with one of your product pages. Write the article for that. Write articles for the other similar pages of your site, and then begin to work your way backwards. Do your category pages. Once all of your category pages are done, then work backwards and do your homepage. This way, it will make sense at the top of the ladder. Your homepage is going to make sense. The things that you say there that people can find on your website, they'll actually be able to find all that stuff on your website because you're going to already know what's on your site once you're writing that homepage. So with that said, I want to demonstrate some writing for you guys, and hopefully this will give you a clear idea of how you can proceed with your own writing, no matter what the topic is. So I'm going to pick one of these strategies or one of these articles. I'm tempted to maybe go for survival strategies or possibly basic needs in this training lesson, just because I believe they would make for good examples just from what I can already kind of guess about what these topics will consist of. So, starting with one of these informational topics and then working my way backwards, I would already know what these different areas of my site were going to be about. So after I write my survival strategies page, I can easily write the summary for that page on the radiation education category page. So again, this is why it's important to go backwards. Now, how you go about doing your writing is entirely up to you. Some people prefer to go ahead and do their writing in WordPress. There are some plugins and stuff that give you useful tools as you go about writing. SEO Yoast plugin, the keyword statistics plugin, for example, will give you information as you write. Now, WordPress does a pretty good job about not losing any of your writing. That used to not be the case. I think that's kind of why I strayed away from doing my writing directly in WordPress itself, because there were some times where I wrote some really in-depth articles or I was building some custom designed pages, and after like multiple hours of working, I would go to save it and it would fail, and I'd end up losing all of my writing that I had been working on and have to do it all over from scratch. So I got fed up with that after a while and just did all of my writing completely outside of WordPress. So you can do this in a basic Notepad type of a word processor. You can get a little more fancy and use something like Microsoft Word. You really don't need to buy something like Microsoft Word, though, if you don't already own it. If you want to use a word processor that'll help you to count the words and to give you spell check and things of that nature, try out OpenOffice, openoffice.org. It is a open source free version of Microsoft Office, essentially. You get all the different parts of it, spreadsheet, slideshow, word processor, and it has all the same features, but it's completely free. This is actually what I use myself with a lot of the writing that I do. You can even make ebooks and stuff like that with it. So I'm going to go for the survival strategies article. So this is survival strategies on surviving nuclear fallout, essentially, which could come from a variety of different sources, really. So I have an open office document. Where I actually want to begin my writing, though, is entirely dependent upon what my subject is really about. Now, I know maybe very basic information on surviving nuclear fallout. Obviously, you want to separate yourself from the radiation outside, from fallout that can occur far away from where the actual bomb was. Um, I know things like plastic wrapping up all the windows and doors and stuff of your home can be one way of doing it, but I'm sure I don't know the half of it. I'm sure I don't know a whole bunch of other different survival strategies. So ultimately, I do need to find out some information about this. So before I technically begin writing, I want to go and do a little bit of research first. My research for this topic, I believe, is going to be best done on Google, since this is an informational type of topic. So I could just search for some general information on how to survive nuclear fallout. And essentially, what I'm looking for here is not just one way or one suggestion of how to do this. I'm looking for multiple ones. So, what are people suggesting in terms of survival strategies for this? I'm not looking to tell people how to survive the bomb. I'm telling people how to survive the fallout. So obviously there are some aspects to location, it appears. This isn't necessarily going to involve the survival strategy. You're either going to be within the course of something like this or you're not. So it's really going to be more about if you're going to be exposed to this type of stuff, how can you protect yourself? So here is one set of information. Your location in a home or building obviously seems to make a big difference. So I know that the basement and interior rooms right here and right here are more protected than the outside areas. So essentially, a pretty small house, um, even down in the basement, is really not going to offer a lot of protection. A concrete brick basement is not going to offer a ton of protection compared with a multi-story basement or a basement that is on a multi-story building and not anywhere close to the entrance. So this would be information that goes into my article. Now, I'm looking again not for just one thing that I can talk about, but I am looking for multiple strategies that I could perhaps give people. So obviously, staying inside is the best thing. So one option could be just to stay put and protect where you are. Another could be to flee to a nearby location that would offer a lot more protection. Obviously, being prepared is a big one. So what I'm doing here is I'm breaking down this main topic, survival strategies for nuclear fallout. I'm taking this main topic and I'm splitting it up into a different number of different chunks. This is important because it's going to help me when it comes to writing this actual article. It's going to help people when it comes to reading this article and trying to either take in all the information that I have to offer or by scanning the article looking for a specific piece of information. It's also going to help search engines because they can look at all these broken down pieces of my main topic. Now, another one I believe that I should touch on. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that I'm finding has to do with just nuclear explosions as a whole. I'm not just interested in explosions. This could be nuclear fallout from a nuclear power plant that has a meltdown. Those release fallout. This is debris that comes down from any kind of nuclear event where there is radioactive material. So I don't have to talk about certain things, but I do need to focus on the actual fallout parts of it. And I think one part of this could be medicine. I want to say iodine might be usable to counteract radioactivity. So I don't personally know too much about this. I'm looking for some basic information. Um, Radiation emergencies page on the CDC site would probably be a good, dependable page to use to try to learn about some of this. So, potassium iodide is what it's actually called. And again, I can use this page to learn a little bit about it. I might even decide to link up with this page. It's a government page, the CDC. Obviously, pretty much everybody knows what the CDC is. This is a well respected page, and using them as a reference source for, I provide some basic information about using potassium iodide, but recommend that people go to this page on the CDC website to learn more. This can actually be a good search engine strategy, and it's useful for your site visitors. By linking up with a relevant page like this, it's in turn making my site look more relevant in the terms of what Google can see. Google is only limited to the information it's exposed to, the content on my site, the links within my site. links elsewhere on the internet, from my site going out and from other places coming in. So any parts of this that you have the ability to affect can greatly enhance your overall results in terms of your search rankings. Now, also notice in the process here that I'm again helping to build semantic words for myself without having to actually research things. I will be including potassium iodide keyword phrase within this now. I guarantee potassium iodide, Google realizes, relates to radiation and fallout, radiation exposure. So by simply talking about it on this page, it makes this more relevant. Now, depending on how much information you can find on any given subtopic, it can kind of determine how many of them you'll really want to be looking for and whatever your page is really about. How do you think it makes the most sense to break it down for people that are reading this page? How do you convey all of this information to them in an organized, logical manner? Taking your main topic, splitting it into a number of subtopics like this, and then using this as the outline for your writing, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways to go about it. So now that I have 4 subtopics here, I might need more, I might not even need this many. It just kind of depends on what I end up writing about it, how much content I want to put on the page. I'm shooting for a 500-word article on this page and all the other pages on this particular website. Some sites I will do a lot more than that. I sometimes do 1,000 words on every page. It just kind of depends on the site, what the purpose is that I'm building the site for. Um, Personally, though, I like the 500-word approach when you're first starting a site because it's enough content, in my opinion, to be useful in terms of your visitors and search engines and Amazon. It's enough content to get you a search ranking, but it's not overkill. It's not too much work. It can take a lot of work to build 1,000 word articles for 20 plus pages. So 500 words lets you kind of get your feet wet, test the waters, see what keyword phrases are working out the best for you, which pages are the most popular, and then you can take those individual pages and try to expand on them later. So I don't overdo it in the beginning. I'm just going to start with these 4 subtopics. So in addition to this, I would also include a summary in the beginning of what this page is really going to be about. So this page is about survival strategies for nuclear fallout. Now, ultimately, this summary here, I'm usually looking to do maybe about 2 paragraphs worth of content, sometimes more or less, just again, depending on what the subject is, and how much I have to say about it. The summary, in addition to accurately describing what your page is about and in a lot of ways how it can help the people that are reading your page, your other goal is to make sure that you are including your primary keyword phrase, whatever the main subject is that you are trying to target on this page. That is something that you need to make sure occurs somewhere in the beginning of this content, preferably in the first paragraph, in the first sentence or two is best. But in the first couple of paragraphs, you usually want to have that primary topic plus a number of different semantic words to kind of go along with it. So I'll naturally try to write out whatever I want to say here. And then I'll kind of go back through it and ask myself, do I have that relevant information that I need? I talk about radiation exposure, nuclear fallout, radioactivity, using a number of different variations of the same word, essentially. This is helpful with search engine optimization. I talk about taking precautions, protecting yourself and your loved ones, guide, survive, and negative effects. I mentioned radiation and nuclear fallout again. I haven't really talked about survival strategies necessarily. I could try to insert this somewhere into my content that I've already written. Um, for example, I still need to take the same precautions and survival strategies to protect yourself and your loved ones. This is one way I could go about it. I could also add on another sentence, or maybe even do both of them. So kind of re-emphasizing the same thing, not necessarily using the direct keyword phrase that I am going after. Um, any searches having to do with fallout, nuclear, radiation, radioactivity, surviving, survival, any of those keywords combined in a number of different combinations now has the potential to possibly rank on this page because of these couple of introductory sentences and paragraphs. So now beyond this, everything else is kind of going to be an individual strategy. Combined all together, this is going to give me an article all about my main topic, surviving nuclear fallout. And it will contain useful, helpful information for people. So I'm going to continue on with the preparation here, talking about pretty much any situation that you could get into having to survive nuclear fallout. Unless you're planning for this ahead of time, there's really probably not too much you can do. It's not like you're going to be able to say, hey, a fallout cloud is heading in my direction. Let me go down to the store and buy a bunch of supplies for it. It's probably going to be too late by that time. So preparation would be probably the most important survival strategy of them all. All right, so I have detailed a little bit of information about why being prepared is important, and also given them a couple of the more basic aspects that they are going to need to prepare for or prepare with. Now, ultimately, I've only done 2 paragraphs worth of information about this topic. It could easily be a lot more. You could go into so much detail about probably each of these different subtopics that I've listed on this page. I could probably write at least a few thousand words worth of content with all kinds of different pictures and diagrams and checklists, and you could get really extensive with these topics. And it's quite okay to do stuff like that. Those types of pages, the really in-depth, long pages, they have a really great chance of getting search rankings and keeping those search rankings because it's helpful content. It's always going to be helpful content. But at least when you're starting out, it can be hard to make an entire site out of those really long, in-depth pages. So again, this is kind of just testing the water to see, can I get a search ranking on these relating topics with 500 words worth of content? If I can't get a top 10 ranking with that 500 words, maybe it puts me not on the first page of Google, but maybe it puts me on the second page. So I know I'm pretty close. Then that could encourage me to expand the page to try to get up to the first page instead. But it also allows me to kind of not overdo it in the beginning too. So I've provided good, useful information here, but I haven't really had to go into an extreme amount of depth or detail. So by continuing to do the same thing here, providing a couple of paragraphs worth of information about each of these different topics, I'll then have a complete article finished and ready to go for this website. So the next aspect or survival strategy is staying inside and protecting your home. All right, so a little bit of additional information about staying inside and protecting the house. Um, I could then move on to talking about the location in the building. In a lot of ways, this is kind of the same survival strategy. Somebody could maybe just use bits and pieces of this. But ultimately, if they can kind of combine all of these aspects together, it seems like it would give them the best chance. So the next part of this is going to be the location in the building, the fact that the basements and the interior rooms, like I was able to see on the other website, are going to be much safer locations. All right, so all of this information, let's split this up into two paragraphs here. Now I just have one more topic to cover, talking about potassium iodide. For this particular topic, this is not, it kind of involves preparation. Obviously, somebody will need to have this on hand, most likely, to be able to use it. But it's, if they're getting exposed, it's also kind of a treatment for radiation exposure as well. So if the other survival strategies and the preparation doesn't work out, then this is kind of a backup or a fallback in a way, I believe is the best way that this can kind of be approached. Now, I didn't really scan over that potassium iodide page very much. I don't know a lot of the detailed stuff about it, and that being medicine, I definitely don't want to state anything that's going to be inaccurate in any way. I thought I would go ahead and take a look at where I am on this article. I'm currently at 441 words. So just from breaking this down into these four different subtopics and writing two paragraphs for each section, minus this very bottom section, if I were to write one more paragraph, I should be in pretty good shape here. And I believe that will be adequate for this. So I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about potassium iodide. I think I can make a general statement, especially if I'm going to be using this link on my site, then I believe I can avoid going into a lot of the really important information having to do with this medicine. That way I don't have to worry about whether I'm stating something 100% correct or not. Being medicine, obviously, this is a lot more important than other types of things could be. So, I'm going to talk about it from that aspect. All right, so I have another paragraph here. I'm going to leave this link down at the bottom of my article for reference later on when I go to actually create my website. This phrase right here, the official CDC website on potassium iodide, that's what I'm going to turn into a link. And I'm going to use this as the address for that link. So I won't actually have this in my content. It'll be linked up from this text here. So now this should be pretty close to about 500 words. I'm a little bit over. That's quite okay. 511. That definitely works for me. Now, ultimately, when I go to load this into my site, I don't have a lot that I need to do to it. I can create a page about this topic. I give it a title. I can go ahead and determine what that title is going to be now if I want to, or I can worry about that later. So something like nuclear fallout survival strategies might be the topic or the title of this page. So when I go to actually create this on my site, I copy and paste my title, I copy and paste my entire article, I link up this text using this link here and remove the actual URL from showing on the site. I will take these different subtopics and turn them into bold text. But again, this is something that I'll end up doing on my WordPress site, not within the word processor here. This is just kind of for demonstration purposes. Beyond that, I might put an image or something on this page or a couple of images that would go along with my content. And then I have a completely formed informational article. It took me, I wasn't exactly watching the time. I want to say maybe a little over half an hour or something to write this article while also trying to talk about it and teach what I'm doing along the way. So by itself, this could definitely be done in 30 minutes or less if you're just churning out these 500 word articles. And this is how you take a topic that you don't really know much about. You do a bit of research, you break it down into a number of different subtopics, and then you put a summary for the page. You write a couple of paragraphs about each of your subtopics, and you're done. Everything else is just adding a bit of style to it, making things look good, adding some links when you're on your Amazon product pages, adding in an Amazon affiliate ad, things of that nature. All this stuff, again, though, comes later on. So all you have to do for right now is just try and write these articles for each of the different pages of your site. So now that I've done this informational page, when I move backwards, once I've written the other informational pages that are going to all be grouped into this category, then when I'm writing the radiation education page, it'll be pretty simple to summarize this survival strategies page. Write a couple paragraphs about this survival strategies page for the content of the radiation education page. So then if I have 2 paragraphs on each of these 4 topics, that's going to be 8 paragraphs. I'd really only need 1 or 2 more paragraphs for a summary, and then I would have my entire radiation education page. And it's going to pretty much include nothing but summaries of these other informational pages on it. So that's why working backwards, in my opinion, is the best approach to take. And this helps you in terms of, I think, making the process easier, helping you to write better content, helping your site content to make more sense, to be more organized for people. You know, you don't want to start out by writing your homepage and say your site's going to have this and that, and then after you've written all the pages of your site, you end up not covering some of those things you originally said. It's really easy to avoid issues like that, again, by working backwards like this. So for the work in this class, you need to take your plans that you have laid out and work your way backwards, just like I have been doing here. Start with your informational topics if you want. I find those to usually be easier than the product pages. Go backwards, build the category page for your informational topics. Then that whole part of your site is done. Then you can move on to the product sections, build your product pages, work backwards, build your main category page for the product pages, and finally work backwards and create your homepage. So your goal is to get the writing done, the basic text articles, just like I walked you through today with this particular article. You're looking to do this about 500 words worth of content for each of the 20 topics that you will have on your site. And if you need a little bit of guidance on what to do for a particular type of content, take a look at the guidebook for today's class. And I also recommend taking a look at downcomforterguide.com, because that website has this exact strategy that I'm teaching you in this series, is how that site was built. I personally built that site myself, and it easily demonstrates these different types of pages for you, kind of how I walked you through that site briefly earlier to point out the different page types. So once you have all of your writing done, then in the next class, we can proceed with beginning to assemble the site. That's a good question, Merv. Something recent that's come around, the whole European cookie disclaimer, GDPR. There's a lot of free plugins. There's a lot of kind of small nuances to running websites like that. And it's definitely hard to cover all of them, going into details of like privacy policies and cookies and things of that nature. But there are a lot of GDPR plugins available. They're free. There are a lot of commercial ones, but there's a lot of free ones too. If you just go into WordPress, go to the plugins and add new, search for GDPR, you'll find a whole bunch of them. Now, ultimately, GDPR is really only necessary for a site that is going to have some kind of tracking on it. On a WordPress site, this is fairly minimal. It can depend on what you add to it, though. If you start adding things like Google Analytics, for example, to your site, then you are adding another layer of tracking. And it's information like that that would then, relate to or be disclosed in the privacy policies. Or that would be what the whole GDPR cookie stuff would be about, blocking. But that's only something you have to worry about for European clients. On most of these Amazon sites, I'm teaching targeting, going after USA traffic in a vast majority of cases, or at least that's what I personally end up doing on my websites. And so you don't have to, a lot of companies now are with this new GDPR stuff, they're showing, the little annoying banner across the bottom of every single website out there. It's actually not required unless you live in Europe. Now, I'm not talking about the website owner, I'm talking about the traffic of the website. So unless you live in Europe and then you go to a site, that site only has to show you that kind of stuff if you, the visitor, are living in Europe. So if your site is going after USA traffic and USA clients, you don't have to show that stuff to your USA people, fortunately. Sherry, with writing product pages, I I will be going into more detail about that. Um, I wanted to focus on the informational page today because there is a lot more focus on advertising and product pages later on in this series. There's actually an entire class after the two site construction classes where we talk about nothing but Amazon and product pages. So we will definitely be putting more focus on those later on. Essentially, though, the writing of the product pages, I do them the same way that I do an informational topic. Um, but it'll kind of depend on the type of page, the type of product page that you decide to write. And what I mean by that is, in my opinion, there's kind of two main types of product pages. You have individual product pages where the entire page is all about one specific product. So using the Down Comforter Guide site as an example, I might build a product page for the IKEA Misa Ron, I believe was one of the discontinued types of down comforters that they created. That's a specific product. So if I have a product page just about that product, then there's only going to be one ad on that page, which will be for that specific product. So then the entire page has to be content about just that one product. In that case, I will usually, again, have a summary, a couple of paragraphs as an introduction to talk about that product in general. And then I'll figure out a way to break that product down into a number of different subtopics. With a down comforter, it might be, you know, materials that were used in the construction, the fill power, how much it's going to keep you warm, different climates that it's rated for, things of that nature, sizes and prices. And you really have to get into a lot more detail with individual product pages, in my opinion, because your whole page, you need essentially 500 words or more about just one product. Now, the other kind of product page is a brand page. I kind of prefer going for brand pages these days. I feel like there's less search engine competition for those exact keyword phrases because most Amazon affiliates with their automated stores, they're churning out nothing but product pages targeting those product keywords. So I go a different way from them and I build these brand pages, and each brand page can cover multiple products. So on that IKEA down comforter page, instead of building separate pages for each individual product, I have one page. It's all about IKEA down comforters. So I'm covering a specific type of product and a specific brand all on the whole page. I have an introduction or a summary again for pages like that. And then just depending on the amount of content that I want, I might have a number of little subcategories of content there, um, kind of like I did with this informational page, where I'll break it down into a number of these different subtopics, and then have different sections on each of the products that I want to promote. Again, that's something that you can kind of see on the IKEA down comforter page, a good demonstration of that. The other product pages that are on that same site, the other brand pages that you can find there, give you some other examples, more simplified brand or product pages that you could potentially try to mimic with your own. But again, we'll go into more detail about this stuff and be featuring the advertising and the product pages a lot more in future classes of this series.